Introduction to GMOs. Genetically modified organisms, or GMOs, are plants and animals whose DNA has been altered using different kinds of genetic engineering. GMO can date back to thousands of years ago through the process of selective breeding. In the past 30 years, modern advances in different kinds of biotechnology have allowed scientists to directly edit the DNA of crops, animals, and microorganisms. Some examples of different kinds of biotechnology are mRNA vaccines and CRISPR gene editing. mRNA vaccines use a synthetic piece of messenger RNA to instruct cells to produce a specific viral protein, triggering an immune system response without using the live virus, which can be very harmful. This also allows for faster development in immune system responses compared to traditional vaccines. And we're using vaccines like the COVID-19 vaccine. CRISPR gene editing technology is revolutionizing animal science by enabling precise, efficient, and cost-effective gene editing to alter DNA in species like mice, pigs, cattle, and chicken. It kind of works like molecular scissors, allowing scientists to knock out or knock in genes to study human diseases, enhance agricultural productivity, improve animal welfare, and create disease-resistant livestock. However, CRISPR gene editing can kind of backfire and has some significant issues and challenges, including off-target effects and accidental mutations or rearrangements of genes. These technical hurdles can lead to unexpected and potentially harmful genomic changes, while ethical concerns arise from gene editing that can affect future generations.
In our search for climate solutions, genetically modified organisms are often framed as a necessity. However, when we look through the lens of biodiversity, the risks often outweigh the rewards. Activists argue that GMOs help us adapt to climate change, but the reality is that introducing modified traits into complex ecosystems can trigger irreversible ecological imbalances. One of the greatest risks in the invasiveness of these new species, as highlighted by the government of Netherlands, GMOs can become more dominant than native varieties, eventually overrunning existing species. To put the scale of this threat into perspective, consider this. In the United States, approximately 50,000 non-indigenous species cause environmental damage and losses estimated at $137 billion per year. Shockingly, 128 species of introduced crops have become serious weeds. When we engineer plants for extreme resilience, we risk creating superweeds that outcompete the biodiversity we are trying to save. Furthermore, the push for GMOs often lead to a cycle of chemical dependency. Many GM crops are designed specifically to be herbicide resistant. Research shows that this leads to an increase in herbicide use, which reduces in-field biodiversity, which may reduce the ecological services provided by agricultural systems. By killing off non-targeted plants and insects, we can destroy pollinators and soil microorganisms essential for a truly sustainable food system. This creates a monoculture, the opposite of a biological diversity required for climate resilience. Finally, we must address vertical gene transfer. As noted in the NCBI research, when modified genes escape into the wild, whether through pollen or fish escaping into the natural pollutants, they can reduce the survival of wild-type counterparts. To achieve true sustainability, we cannot rely on technology that risks the integrity of our natural world. We must prioritize ecological health over laboratory-made shortcuts. Biodiversity isn't just a resource, it is our safety net against the climate crisis. Let's not compromise it for a quick fix.
Hi, my name is Juliana Gutierrez, and today I'm gonna challenge the claim that genetically modifying plants and animals is necessary to solve the climate crisis and achieve sustainability. I'm gonna go over the negative ethical ramifications of this. So, although genetic engineering is often framed as a climate solution through the use of tactics like drought-resistant crops, heat-tolerant livestock, or faster-growing species, it heightens serious uncertainties about food safety and environmental sustainability. As Tadis Fikir Tefera, who is an expert in the realm of food science and technology, argues if the risks of GMOs to consumer safety and natural biodiversity are real, the world has to just face it and find a way out. There's no easy escape. Rather than fragmented national approaches that we need is deeper global research and stronger empirical data before scaling these technologies as climate solutions. There's also ethical concerns about corporate control. A small number of multinational corporations patent GMO seeds, forcing farmers to purchase new seeds annually. This creates financial dependence and threatens traditional farming practices, especially for small-scale farmers in developing nations. Sustainability should promote resilience and equity, not monopoly and dependency. When it comes to animals, the concerns deepen. Engineering heat-resistant cows or faster-growing salmon may lead to painful health complications or behavioral changes. Ultimately, climate change is driven by consumption, fossil fuels, and industrial systems, not by flawed genetics in plants and animals. Instead of redesigning life to survive environmental degradation, we should redesign our systems to prevent it. Genetic modification may be a tool, but it is not ethically neutral, and it is not the only path to sustainability. True climate solutions require systematic transformation, ecological humility, and justice. Thank you.
Solving climate change through genetic modifications would have unforeseen consequences that would not become prevalent until years later. We have selectively bred livestock, such as sheep and cattle, for increased production and efficiency, which has led to reduced fertility and lameness, as well as other unintended traits resulting in reduced longevity. Growth traits, such as a decrease in time it takes to reach maturity, have been relatively easy to record. However, the aforementioned unintended traits have been harder to record or more costly to record. In the seed stock industry, genetic defects in dairy and pigs have become more prevalent due to selective breeding, especially in cases of inbreeding. This results in decreased herd health, animal welfare, and biodiversity. We have selectively bred dogs for centuries, molding them into niche versions of themselves for different tasks. These short-term desirable traits were immediately present because they were the traits we aimed for. However, the hidden unintended consequences did not become prevalent for generations later, destroying the health and welfare of certain dog breeds. For example, the English Bull Terrier was originally bred for blood sport and vermin control. The desired traits were increased agility and courage, but the unintended consequences resulted in the dog's hereditary deafness, kidney disease, and heart defects. The argument that genetic modification of plants and animals can solve climate change does not hold up because I have proven time and time again that selective breeding causes unintended consequences that are not prevalent until years or even generations later.
Although there is certainly potential for genetically modified organisms to benefit the fight against climate change, especially within agricultural fields, the main culprits and contributors to climate change have already been identified. Many solutions to these issues have already been determined, and it is just a matter of integration through policy and activism to get more sustainable practices in place and into the mainstream if we hope to bring the Earth back to a steady level. Genetically modifying plants and animals produces many concerns such as insecticide resistance, loss of biodiversity, and the health and safety of long-term consumption of genetically modified organisms for humans and other animals. Concerns surrounding insecticide resistance is mainly in the conversation of superweeds and superbugs that arise through transgenesis. When genetically modified organisms are transferred new genes that protect them from herbicides, these genes can also unintentionally be transferred to other plants such as weeds. When weeds gain these new resilience, farmers will need to use more herbicides in order to kill off these superweeds, which will in turn lead to a further water and soil contamination and runoff, potentially harming the surrounding ecosystem even more. The loss of biodiversity is another concern, with the concern that genetically modified plants and animals could spread uncontrollably if allowed to do so and unregulated. This would disturb the biological equilibrium in place and lead to a lot of competition and potential extinction of local flora and fauna. And finally, there's been little to no long-term research on whether genetically modified plants and animals are safe for human consumption, and that will only come with further research in time. In this way, genetically modifying plants and animals will not be necessary, in my opinion, to solve the climate change crisis and achieve sustainability, as our resources are better allocated at promoting more sustainable practices, increasing legislation, and better enforcement of current environmental rules and regulations.